third time. This will be my fifth time if I do it. Raise your hands if you have not been to a seminar here this year before. So this is your first seminar. There's a few of you. Good. So that, you know what that means for the rest of you? I apologize. I will repeat the spiel. I've been repeating it all weekend and then turn it over to Jim Bell. It's not the weekend, is it? It just seems like a weekend. Anyway.
We can make it a weekend.
Oh, I think this is the last party, I think, before tonight's dinner, so it's been one hell of a party. Let's see, you think I would know it by now. Audio and video recording of any and all CAC seminars is strictly prohibited without the express written consent of the CAC. So we ask cell phone, video devices, all that other stuff. Please refrain from recording these seminars. Still pictures, of course, are okay. On the desk in front of you, not in front of every chair, but on the desk in front of you, there are seminar feedback forms. If you're so inclined to, please fill them out and leave your feedback on the seminar you see today. If you would like to be considered to host a seminar here, or present a seminar here, I guess it would be more accurately described. Please, there's a question on there that asks if you're interested in doing just that. Fill in your contact info, seminar subject you'd like to do. I can't promise you that you will have a seminar, but I can promise you it will be considered. You've heard this 5 times. Have I said everything? Oh, for the first time this weekend, out of necessity, please make sure all cell phones are silenced. This is like the movie theater. These guys are getting up there in age, so they may not be yelling, especially Bass on the end. So that being said, have a good time. Thank you for coming to CAC. I'm going to introduce your co-host of CAC Radio, Mr. Jim Bell, who will introduce this seminar about Portland wrestling.
All right, welcome everyone. Before we begin, because this is wrestling, I've got to start with the probably the most common 4 words in wrestling. Card subject to change. Unfortunately, due to commitments, Dean Silverstone is unable to be here. And because Dean was the heart and soul of superstar wrestling, we have decided to sort of flip the script here because none of us, we can talk a little bit about it, but we can't do it complete justice. We're going to focus primarily on Don Owen and Portland wrestling. And in my opinion, I think Dean, with Lumberjack Luke and Chris Colt and Harry Elliott and all of the things that he did throughout the entire West, I think Dean deserves his own seminar. So hopefully we can work on that in the future. So that will happen. Exactly. So we're going to talk a lot about Portland. My name is Jim Valley. As Ron mentioned, I co-host the Cauliflower Alley Radio podcast, which you can find at caulifloweralley.org. Coming up this afternoon, my co-host and MK are going to do a recording with Steve Kern and Ryan Blair together. So when we're late to the banquet tonight, you'll know why. But it's going to be a good show, so look for that the next couple of weeks at caulifloweralleyclub.org. It should be a lot of fun. Who grew up on Portland wrestling? Who watched Portland wrestling? I grew up on all of this, so I live for this. And if it wasn't for Portland wrestling, I wouldn't be here right now. You know, I grew up on Saturday nights, 8:30, Channel 12. You know, it was Jimmy Snuka and Dutch Savage and Bull Ramus, even a little bit of Lonnie Main, who we'll talk about. I think the first guy that sucked me in was probably Jimmy Snuka. And then there was this bad guy in a kilt named Roddy Piper who lit the territory on fire. And historically, that may have been the most lucrative period of Don Owen wrestling. And we've got a lot of cohorts up here who can talk about that phase. Let me walk you through before we introduce you to this cavalcade of characters. Real quick, Don Owen, his dad was a promoter. Herb Owen did boxing and wrestling. Started around 1925, so it's a family business. So Don's family went from 25 to 92. They got, Mike Rogers, we're around the Northwest, they started TV in 48 on Channel 6, and then a couple of years later moved to Channel 12, and was on Channel 12 until 1991, so they were on Channel 12 almost 40 years alone. So when Monday Night Raw tells you that they are the most continuous, episodic, dog and pony show, they are not. Portland wrestling was, and people up here will talk about the power of the television. Another interesting thing about Portland, Gorgeous George started the gimmick in Portland. He wasn't Gorgeous George yet, but the pomp and the circumstance before he went to Los Angeles, he sort of formed the character, right, Mike? Yeah, so Gorgeous George got his start in Portland wrestling being not George Wagner, but Gorgeous George. Portland was a junior heavyweight territory for a very long time. The heavyweight title started in like 1958. Never really until the end a big man's territory. People like working it, they can tell you that because of the trips. The money was good for the size. And now that we're up to speed, we'll tell some good stories. That's what I want to do here today. Let's start here. He's lucky enough to work the trifecta of the Northwest, work for El Tomco, work for Dean Silverstone, and work for Don Owen. Greg Lake! If you watch Portland wrestling, you remember him as bad boy Bobby Kincaid. Worked in the 70s and 80s for Don Owens, Bobby Bass.
Hey, Greg.
Always stealing other people's thunder.
Gimmick infringement, he does.
He is a Pacific Northwest heavyweight champion, a tag team champion, and not only that, we'll get into this, he worked for Billy Jack Haynes when Billy Jack ran against Don Owen around 1988 in the short-lived Oregon Wrestling Federation. So he could talk about working with Don and working against Don. Ricky Santana! I believe our next gentleman here is the only man to hold the trifecta of Don Owen's titles, the tag team title, the heavyweight title, and the short-lived television titles. I think you are the only Grand Slam champion in Portland wrestling history. Under Don, he's got more names than anybody here in this room. He started around 79 for Don as the Destroyer, then came back as the Assassin, although we all knew he was the Destroyer. And then had a tremendous babyface run as Top Gun. You know him as Fidel Sierra, the Cuban Assassin. Now, when you come to Cauliflower Alley, everybody here knows they're wrestling. And I would argue that this guy knows as much or more as anybody. He's a tremendous historian, a wealth of knowledge. I'm looking forward to some of his stories. California, Idaho, Northwest wrestling legend, Moondog, Ed Moretti! So, why don't we start, I guess, who worked the territory first? Did you work the territory first?
Yes.
No.
So you worked the mid-70s.
1950.
Let's talk about one of the biggest baby faces that Don Owen had. Lonnie Mae, excitement in the air. You were there when Lonnie was there in the 70s.
Yeah, I sure was, and I became a very good friend of Lonnie's. And, I traveled on the road with him, had a lot of ribs with him, which I can't say here. But,
Yeah, you can.
Okay?
Yeah.
He shit in my boot. Shit. Why did you tell me a good laugh? But yeah, I worked with all the boys at Bukowski's, Buddy Rose, Jesse Van Joy was there, and Johnny Warrior.
Did you live at the Bomber?
No,
Yes, we'll get to that.
yeah, on the Bomber, I met a girl who had lots of money, and she rented a house behind the Bomber. So hey, I was living high in the honk.
Okay, since we brought it up real quick, the bomber, who wants to talk about the bomber? Who stayed at the bomber? Did you?
One question.
Yeah.
Bass, if you didn't live at the bomber, what the hell are you doing there every fucking night?
I can answer that. I'm going to get Eddie here now because he just shot me down. Eddie, you read out at the bomber every night. Somebody had a bottle of booze and I didn't have to pay for it.
So the bomber, this was it a gas station originally? Yeah. And yeah, restaurant and hotel on this highway in Portland, south of Portland, yeah. And the reason it's called a bomber is because out where the gas, where the pumps are, there was a bomber. Yeah. There was an actual bomber plane. He flew.
He bought it.
Yeah. Well, tell us a story about the bomber, Fidel.
Well, Art Lacey was in World War II,
Yeah.
and that same plane, he bought that and had that put there in his business. He flew that plane.
The plane is no longer there. It's actually being refurbished by a historical society, and all of the boys, Jesse Ventura lived there, Roddy Piper lived there for a time, everybody lived, Alvin Grill, everybody lived at the bomber.
Everybody lived at the bomber.
So give us a bomber story.
The bomber, we all stayed there, like I said, after Portland wrestling, everybody would come there. It looked like, anyway, car after car went around, this in the Chalco.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of young ladies came, and everybody had a great time, and drank, partied, whatever, and that's the way it was back then.
Did I see James Beard here? James Beard, yeah, you were at the bomber recently.
I took him to the bomber when they were up.
Real quick, you were there recently. Just describe it.
Well, I mean, it looked like a dump. No, it's just pretty plain, you know, the restaurant's still there, but they're fixing the sign right out front. The cabins that you guys studied in are still there. I don't know what they look like inside. They look like pretty basic.
Yeah.
How would you've probably seen a lot, I mean, every territory sort of had an apartment where boys stayed. How would you compare it to other comparable accommodations?
There's guys in Dallas, they live anywhere from sleeping on people's couches to apartments. I mean, you know, pretty nice apartments. So this is unique. This is very unique. And that's one of the reasons why we went there. I went and did a picture of myself with Tim Storm, the NWA champion. And we saw all those sites, because I never got to work there. And it is a special place, man. And I heard about it, and of course I knew all these guys, and you know, it just makes you, I don't know, it makes you really appreciate what the business was like at that time. And I know these guys got a blast there. I know they did. Tell the truth, Dave.
Yeah. I agree.
When I first got out there, I had spoken to Don Owens, and he told me you're going to be staying at the bomber. I'm going to be in number 7. I figured that's good. That's a lucky number. So I get out there, the way it's lighted up, it's kind of like a big spoiler like that, and the driveway goes around. And like my partner here said, it was a cavalcade after the show, and he just kind of waited and picked. And Art lived in the first one. Right? And right after Art was, yeah. No. Art Lacey. His place was there, and he showed me his gun collection.
See that too?
Yeah, all over his wall. He had a dog named Beauregard. He had a bell around his neck, so he could warn the ducks and the birds, so Beauregard liked to eat them and chase them. But my partner here had a different philosophy on why the dog wore the bell. As they went around, the restaurant was good, and you know, breakfast was great, lunch was great, and waitresses were pretty, and how can I say this?
Carefully.
Yeah, I'll say it carefully. There was a young lady who was kinfolk to Art Lacey. And she used to visit, she was my friend, and the dog would come out, and Fidel was in number 8, which was next door to me, and he could hear Beauregard's bell, and he'd go, "Art's out!" And and then you hear the window open and whoop, out the window, coming around, and he'd say, you know, Art's gonna use one of those guns one of these days, brother, he's gonna shoot you if he finds out. I go, well, don't be a snitch, hey, fade.
So let's talk about the Portland Sports Arena, where Don ran TV and ran every Saturday. It was at the church now. Some would say it was a church then. It was a converted bowling alley. Now, if anybody who's been to any old bowling alley, the ceilings are not very high. And there was a time, didn't Dutch Savage take a backdrop and break the lights?
No, that would have been Lonnie.
Was it Lonnie who did that? What was, and let me ask you this, the first time you saw the Portland Sports Arena, what did you think?
I went, oh my God, I made it. I would watch it on tapes and stuff like that from TV. Buddy Rose would send me tapes from that area, and I said, man, one day I'm going to work there, hopefully. And I did. And but yeah, compared to the Cow Palace in San Francisco, it was a little bit of a culture shock. But it was a cool place. The sports arena was like no place else that I know of. I've heard people compare it to the place in Dallas, but I never worked in Dallas. But sports arena was a unique place, and it had its own feel. It had its own culture. It had its own wrestling fans, and it was a really nice place to be. It was perfect for wrestling.
You mentioned the wrestling fans. It was the same people in the same seats every week for a long time.
For a long time.
The best, honestly, the best wrestling fans.
I totally.
I gotta do that, yeah.
So Ricky brought up Irene. If you see any of the videos from the 70s, you'll see front row ringside, an elderly woman, and they gave her a
She
badge.
was in her 90s.
Yeah, but talk about Irene. Didn't she make you guys bread and stuff?
Yeah.
Talk about Irene. Ringside Rosie, basically.
Yeah, ringside, Irene, she was great. She was there every Saturday, sat ringside, same chair, and she always brought us like cake or always some type of snack for all of us. But I gotta say that Don Owens, Portland Wrestling, Elton Owens, then Barry, they all were so good, and it was a pleasure to wrestle for Don Owens.
Absolutely.
Because he gave me an open door policy. He told me, no matter where you're at in the country, you call me, you don't got a job, you got one here. And there's not too many promoters to tell you that. I have had a couple other ones, but Don Owens was first class. I don't care what anybody says about him. Somebody talks bad about him, they're crazy. He treated the boys good. Yeah, I gotta say, I used to get down on one knee at the table to get paid.
Let me tell you about that.
So, but he always tried to take care of us. And I could talk about Don Owens all day long. I respect him. He gave me a break as a destroyer. Then I left. He used me as the assassin both times. I told him, there's other guys already with those names. I don't give a damn. This is my territory. Do what I say. Okay. And then I did the Top Gun deal. And under all those characters, I got to hold all the titles. And I'm glad of that. But I wouldn't have been able to do it. We had such a crew of guys that would come in. From this man to this man, we all, and from Rick Martel to Playboy Buddy Rose to Roddy Piper, God bless, to the drafter who was supposed to be here, couldn't make it, but he told me to tell you how he's sorry, then didn't. To so many guys, Jimmy Snuka, everybody. There was somebody, my brother from another mother, Kurt Heaney, Mr. Perfect, Kurt Heaney, his first sellout was at the Portland Sports Arena against me, and he was my brother from another mother, 1,000%. And I gotta let you go on that.
Okay, buddy?
Yeah.
All right, buddy?
Yeah.
Don Owens was a unique person in the sense that You could ask anybody that ever flew in or worked this territory, he was the best payoff man for the house.
Yes.
And that's what I had always heard, that Don Owens will take care of you if the house is there. And he did, but I didn't get to know that until my partner here, which I've been up and down the road with for over 30 years. And we've seen a lot of different territories. But we walked in, and I went to go get the pay, and you know this, he opened up that drawer, and he had that money, and he'd be laying it out, and I was thankful, and I picked it up, and I walked out, and Fidel says, "Did you get paid?" I said, "Yeah, brother, but you said Don was the best payoff guy in the business, and the house looked better than that to me. I don't know, maybe I gotta prove myself?" He goes, "Follow me." I said, "Okay." So I walked back into the office, and Don sits down, he opens a drawer in Don's County, and Fidel looks at him and goes,
Every week.
and he puts the money down, and looks around the room, and Don's shouting out, "Jesus Christ, how much money do you need?" That'll work. I said,
Why didn't you tell me that?
so the following week, you know, I'm in there and working with her power, and the house is decent. I walk in, and as I'm walking by, the guy says, "Remember what I told you, remember what I told you." Gotcha, bro. I walk in. Jesus Christ, you're as bad as that assassin in here coming in and begging for money like that one damn here. How's that? Thank you, Don.
I'll start my story on Don Owens payoffs with just, not the, I gotta disagree a little bit. I loved working there, but it wasn't, for me, the payoff territory that I thought it was. I made a living, I worked hard, did my thing, but it wasn't, I didn't think it was a great payoff territory. I thought it was okay. I had worse, but that was just my opinion. And I got a quick story about the Portland Sports Arena. When they tore down when they were tearing down the Portland Sports Arena to make it back into a church, they went into the not the gift shop, what do you call it? Where you get all this concession. Thank you. They went into the concession area and they were tearing out the fryer where they used to make all the French fries and stuff like that. And they found 2 dead rat carcasses in the bottom of the fryer. Every week they cooked in that thing. And we were eating rats. The 4-legged kind.
I was thinking the same thing. Quick Don Owens story for me. Don was always good. I worked for Dean Silverstone, who couldn't be here. Great guy, great promoter. Anyway, years later, I would go to Seattle. I used to live in Seattle, when I worked for Dean, and lived there for 6 years. Dean was always treated me great. But the Don Owens payoff story for me was, I would call him, and he would always book me, and then several times I would just call, "Hey Don, I'm going to be in the area, can you use me?" And he'd go, "Yeah." So I come in. So the big payoff story I have for him is, of course, knock on the door and all that after I worked, and he paid me in $71 bills. I mean, counted $70 on $1 bills, $71 bills. I didn't know where to put them. My wallet was that thick. I wish they were all hundreds, but there were ones. I had pockets full of dollar bills. I was buying beers for everybody, just so I wouldn't have it on me, you know. I was afraid of lose it anyway. And then the other story, real good story I had, and it was a great territory when I worked. Like I said, I worked with Top Gun over here. Always treated me good. Had a decent match, if I remember. But anyway,
The only other story I have about that really stands out in my mind was, okay, I don't know if you ever heard of Chris Cole, Ron Dupree, Chris Cole. Anyway, well, his partner was Ron Dupree. But anyway, Chris and I was the only guy that ever drove Chris Cole sane, and that would make sense if you knew Chris Cole. I used to drive him nuts because I'm so neurotic. Even worse back then. Bobby, Eddie knows I drive Eddie crazy. But anyway, the story is, I've had history with Chris Cole throughout the years, and last time I ever saw Chris, we were standing in front of the Crow's Nest where they did the interviews and things, and Chris says, "See you down the road, buddy. Love you." Gave me a big hug, and then I guess a couple years later he passed away. So, but it was just it has some good memories for me. Yeah. And this is my 15 minutes of fame out of 46 years that I've been in the business. So, Greg Zoo.
I got a story about the payoffs.
Oh, good. Was it in your boot?
I was in the territory of the jogger, believe it or not, and I knocked him down. He said, "Come on in, Max." Or policeman, how they call me. "Come on in." And he'd be paying me, like, same with Greg in the ones. He'd be going,
Is it true that Don gave turkeys to the boys around Thanksgiving?
Yes, sir.
You know where I'm going with this.
Yes, I did.
All right, go ahead.
It is true Don gave turkeys every Thanksgiving to the boys. Now, there was a problem one Thanksgiving because the midgets were here. So when they went to get their little thing for their Thanksgiving turkey, they were pissed. They got those little birds that you... Don would do during the payoff day is he'd watch your eyes. Like he'd watch your eyes, and if you went, that was it. You're leaving. You're done.
So we did talk about Portland wrestling. We're talking about probably Don's biggest drawing attraction. A guy you were very close to, a guy you worked with, Playboy Buddy Rose.
"Yes."
That's right.
Just by coincidence, 2 days ago was the 9th anniversary of Buddy Rose's death.
Yes.
Why don't we start with you, Assassin? Let's talk about maybe one of the most famous angles in Portland wrestling history with Buddy Rose and the belt.
Oh, yeah.
This is great. God bless you, Buddy Rose.
Yes.
We're riding in the car together. It's Buddy Rose, me, Rip the Cripper, Oliver, and I couldn't tell you who else. And
But he promised to do this before the car.
no, we're riding in the car.
Okay.
And Buddy says, "Man, we're doing this deal with Jay Youngblood. God bless him too. And I gotta find something right." I said, "Buddy," I said, "when I was in Florida, I was 12 years old and 13 years old. I seen Paul Jones, God bless his soul, steal the belt from Jack Briscoe, God bless his soul, the Florida title. Take it to Andy Bridge and threw it off the deal, and they sold out everywhere." So I said, "Buddy Rose, I got it. That's what I'm going to do. We're going to steal the belt from Jay Youngblood, and I'm going to throw it off the highest bridge in Portland." I said, "That would be great." So we took the belt. Buddy goes, "But," I'm telling these people, "but I'm going to have Frank Bondema, the limousine, we're all going to go limousine, all that." We get there, on the way to go to get to the limousine, I see like literally over 1,000 people going up the Skyway Bridge in Florida. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to be in so much trouble. And I tell Buddy that when he gets there, but no, I don't care. We're going. Yeah.
Fremont Street Bridge.
Yeah, Fremont Street Bridge, yeah.
Not Scott Webster.
Yeah, no dogs compared to those guys at that time. Anyway, so Buddy knows now we get there in the limousine, and we all get out, and fans are like crawling us, and Buddy's got the belt, and me and Red Baller were, and we're all saying, Buddy, go the belt off the bridge, and people pushing us closer and closer. And man, it was finally he threw that belt, and there was all kind of belts trying to grab that belt. But we barely made it back to the limousine. There were beating on the windows, the fans spitting, whatever, and the cop told the limo driver, or sergeant, or whatever, this is a job for somebody higher than me. You guys go to the 3rd Street, make a right, we'll be right there with you. And sure enough, we went there, and I said, Buddy, how in the hell, we're all going to jail. How are you going to get us out of this? The guy loved wrestling, the biggest boss. Buddy promised them ringside tickets for a month. And but it all started that way.
And how old was that belt? That belt was...
It was an old belt, and they had just bought the new belt.
Yeah.
But Dutch Savage, God bless him, he did not want that to happen, that angle, but it sold out with Buddy, it sold out with all of us at that time. I was brought up about Buddy Rose's Army. But
There's a video on YouTube with Dutch Savage. You can see him, and he's holding the old belt, and that belt must have been 40, 50 years old. It's like nothing I've ever seen.
Yes,
That thing was an antique. Yeah.
But yeah, nobody ever found the belt.
Yeah, no.
Jim, wasn't it in the early 2000s that Scott?
They claimed they did. That was not
Yeah, sent
true.
divers down, yeah.
Talk about Buddy.
Oh, Buddy.
He really close.
Buddy was a unique guy. He broke into business with Vern Gagne, and the first time he tried to get into wrestling, he didn't pass. He didn't pass the test. He was in the same class as Ric Flair, and Buddy didn't pass the test, but he came back the next time they had a class, and he passed the test. And he was heavy in the seat, light in the feet. And that was true. That was his kind of motto. He was an athlete. No matter what anybody says, he was an athlete. He could outskate some of the Portland. What was the Portland?
Winterhawks.
Portland Winterhawks. He actually could outskate.
He could kip up at 300 pounds.
Yeah, kip up off the ground, outskate the Portland Winterhawks, a few of them. And he was just a great athlete and a great wrestler and a great worker. And very much, as anybody will tell you that worked with him, he had a lot of psychology for pro wrestling. And when I was a kid, really, literally a kid, Buddy came down to wrestle in the San Francisco area, and me and my best friend who I grew up with was Steve Pardee, and he wrestled in Portland also. And we met Buddy, and Buddy was just like, wow, you guys are something else, because we were following him all over the place, and we'd go to all the wrestling matches, and we'd follow him all over the place, and he said, you guys are just like I was. So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I gotta go to Hawaii. So I have 2 dogs. He had always had dachshunds, little poodles. So, I mean, not little poodles, little dachshunds, I'm sorry, little brown dachshunds. No. And he said, what I'm going to do is I got to go there. Will you guys take care of them while I'm gone? We said, sure. He goes, and here's what I'll do for you. You guys can watch all my tapes. Any tapes I have, you can watch them. And we're like, wow, because at that time, no one had VHS.
He was an early adopter of technology.
Yes, he had the actual reels from the Portland Sports Arena and all that stuff, and he had the actual cameras and stuff to be able to show them on his wall. So Buddy went there, and me and Steve took care of his dogs, and we were supposed to feed them, and we were supposed to walk them and make sure, the house was clean. When Buddy got back, he went, oh my God! What happened here? The dogs were fine, but the yard looked like a zoo. The house looked like a zoo because we were so busy watching them tapes. He liked it so much. When I later got into business in San Francisco, he helped me get started. My first place I wrestled was, I wrestled a week in the
Pacific Northwest with Buddy, then I went to Vancouver, and then Buddy helped Steve Pardee get started a year later after me.
Virtually every Portland wrestling video on YouTube that's 70s, early 80s is from Buddy's selection.
Yeah.
That's Buddy's collection, yes.
Yes.
Many people have it now, but it came from Buddy's collection.
So you mentioned Steve Pardee.
Yeah.
Steve Pardee was part of leading up to maybe the biggest money angle that Buddy Rose did with Roddy Piper, the famous hair match.
The hair match, yeah, that was Buddy's thing at that time.
Yeah, I mean, that they ended up going to, they ended up not even running the blow-off at the sports arena.
Because I wasn't working there, I was in Vancouver at the time, these guys were probably,
Yeah,
you were
talk
probably
about
there
that.
during that, wasn't it Red Bastine?
Yeah.
He shaved, Buddy shaved everybody's head in the territory pretty much on his way to the finale with Piper.
Exactly.
And the last guy I think he got was Steve Pardee. Was the last guy to get...
He might have been the first.
Maybe the first or the second, they went all the way up the line, all the baby faces got their head shaved.
Yeah.
And then it boiled down to him and Piper.
Yeah. And they took it to the Expo Center.
That's exactly. That's
Talk
right.
about, I mean, Fidel, talk about that time. I mean, that was a really hot time.
The wrestling was so hot back then, but that angle did go. They went to the Expo, and
Piper shaved his head in a
Piper, he shaved Buddy's head there, right?
Buddy put on a mask.
Exactly. Yeah. And then later on, he lost the Cadillac to Piper, saying that.
According to Dave Meltzer, that was the biggest payoff for that match, that Buddy and Roddy got the biggest one-night payoff in Dono in history.
Yeah, that Bobby knew not to smile.
And here's how smart Buddy was. We were talking about Buddy's psychology. The night he lost his hair was the only night you saw him without hair. That was the only night. He wore a mask after that, like Dave said. And then the whole thing was to try to get Buddy Rose's mask off.
Exactly.
By the time they did get his mask off, guess what? His hair was back in again.
Oh, and they also had the pictures. They remember the picture of the sheep herders? They had the picture of Buddy with longer hair, and they sold those pictures, I'm sure, I went to Buddy too.
Right, it was the hair off the mask.
Yeah.
Because Buddy sewed blonde hair into his mask, so he never looked like he was bald, except for that one night on the blow-off match. That's how smart that guy
Ed,
was.
are there any pictures of Buddy like being bald after the match?
There are pictures somewhere, some people have, I don't have them, but
Yeah,
there
and
are
they need to
some.
get one there, wouldn't they? I mean,
There is a picture that exists because the sheep herders who were part of Buddy's army turned on him and became baby faces. They go, look, we've got this picture, and they had Buddy holding, with them together. We were supposed to look like a casual picture, and I'm sure they made $1 million off of those pictures selling them. Because, Buddy didn't want to see any of them. That'll be.
And if I could add, as great as a promoter Don Owens was in his mind and having that promotion for as long as he did, that wasn't his idea. Those ideas all came from guys like right here that thought of stuff like that and said, we saw that in another place, or
Yeah.
let's see how that'll do. Everybody contributed that way to the success of Portland wrestling over the years.
There wasn't really an official booker, was there?
Yeah. Well, no and yes. Sort of like when it was Playboy Buddy Rose's army, Buddy Rose was, might as well say he was the booker.
Right, Buddy kind of says everyone worked together. He kind of
Yeah,
defers.
we all worked together,
Right.
that's true. Then when Rip Oliver developed the Clan, Rip Oliver was sort of like the booker, but everybody worked off each other's ideas and we kept that place going. So it kept on. Then when the grappler came in, it became, the grappler was the, man in charge. But it was great. But what we're forgetting here, and I just want to, God bless Sandy Barr, who ran Salem territory, Salem area, and other towns. He was a great man too, and God bless he's gone.
Yep.
And Al Owens, that ran his own Eugene part. You can't forget those guys, Luke Brown, the referee, they're all gone. But I never forget those guys because every now and then you're reminiscing about Portland Day to this day. And I'll never forget those guys because they were always so good to us. Elton was a unique... You know, Elton Owens had a deal when you came in. He would say, hey, you know how to shoot, you know? And first time he told me, I looked at him and said, sort of. Well, what he did is they would have shoot fights, like shoot matches for 2 minutes.
$35.
Yeah, and on the winner would get 20, the loser would get 10. But a lot of guys would work to shoot. Work to look like a draw for the 8 Or they would get, the guy that won would always give the other guy $5. So you got extra $15 each. And it was funny because he determined, I seen guys lose their jobs almost, or did. Austin Ido was there, came there, he told Alvin said, hey, you know how to shoot? He goes, I don't do that shit. He was gone in 2 weeks.
First got in and going to Eugene was my first week. I got in there and I walk in, and from a babyface standpoint, it was great, but the locker room was the shits. I hate to tell you that. It was, you had to do it in sections. You get 2 guys to change, other 2 guys walk out, other 2 guys come in and sit down and everything else. So I'm getting ready to go, and Elton walks in, hey kid, where are you from? Florida. Oh, can you shoot? I said, no, I amateur, I know the Briscoes. Oh, you know the Briscoes. Oh, boy, this guy can shoot. So he leaves, and I go to him, and I go, what's he talking about, bro? And he says, well, there's a mini shoot out there, it's 2 minutes, you know, and you just split it and work it, but it's all set up. You just go out there, and now Elton's hooked because you know the Briscoes, we just gonna make this quick. I said, okay. He says, just do that amateur. Go ahead, drop down, go behind him, you know. So I go out there, and it's before he can even tie up, boom, on the mat. And Elton, you can see him in the back going, oh, Jesus Christ, we got a real shooter here. And I went back and I split the money, but Elton was such a funny character that everything was so legit. And I got to tell just one Elton Owens story. The heels were on the other side, and they were late. Yeah. They were late, and, well, you were late, Rip Oliver was late, and he comes over to the babyface side, and he goes, hey, you know, the heels were late. And I go, yeah, what are you going to do? You going to find them? No, what are you going to do? No, they got a legitimate reason. I said, really? What's that? He goes, well, they're going down here State 5, getting by Salem, and I'll be damned. There was 2 females on the side of the road, and they were engaged. I said, engaged? He goes, you know what I'm talking about. They were right there, naked, and they were doing something. And I said, oh my God, Elton, he just worked you. And I see him later at the bar, and I said, bro, could you just been a little different in your story? He goes, we had to come off the fly with it, so he went with it. He was so mad at us because they were like 40 minutes late. And, you know, the show started on time, and I'm just kind of looking at him, and I'm going, God, you know, Elton was just a funny character. And he was such a part of Portland wrestling that for me, knowing all these characters and knowing all the personas that came out there through there. And when I first got there, I had already, you know, my good brother here, he's the one who got me booked in Portland because I did get canned in Florida for letting an enhancement guy give me a hip toss. But that's a whole different story. And I get out there and, you know, we're together and I hear all the stories about, you know, his different gimmicks that he had out there. And one thing was important to me because, you know, I want to clarify something here, that he was the Northwest champion, TV champion, and tag team champion. So that was my merit. And I was able to accomplish that. I had all 3, but I couldn't beat and top him because he was, at the same time, the Northwest champion, the TV champion, and the tag team champion with no tag team partner. And he literally wheelbarrowed all 4 of the belts to the ring. And I said, wow, is this guy over with Don Owens or what? I've never been able to top that. Sure.
Talk about, briefly, you worked for Billy Jack when Billy ran against Donna in '88. Did you work for one too?
Yeah.
Maybe touch base on that, then what it was like when you came back.
I'll start at the beginning of the story. Me and Fidel were in there, and Don Owen says, hey, you know, you guys have been here a while. I think it's time that you guys, you know, go somewhere else, and you can always come back. Right? And I said, okay, so, you know, I come back in, and I, you know, gave my notice. So I went to Charlotte, and was in Charlotte and everything else, and Billy was opening up, and he asked me to come out there and guarantee me some big money. So I figured, okay, let me go. I get out there, and I drove from Charlotte all the way. In 2 weeks, I was driving back to Charlotte because the money wasn't there, the house wasn't there, and I wasn't about that.
I didn't meet with Don Owens.
Yeah, but I got back home, and I called him, and I said, hey, you know, can you help me out here? You know, I need somewhere to go right now. He said, okay, let me talk to Don, and he got me back out to Don, so I get into the sportatorium there, the Portland Sports Arena. And I'm sitting there, and Don Owens walks in. And he looks at me, he looks around the room, and he goes, hey, everybody gather around for a second. Santana, come here a second. Come here. I stand up, and he goes, now, you see this guy here? He's a good talent. He can talk on the mic, he don't scream. You know, he's sold a lot of pictures, hell of a baby face. I'm going, where's he going with this? And he goes, what? Some bitch, he's a dumbass. I looked at him and I said, okay. And he said, how the hell do you go opposition to me when I took care of you and then in the summertime trying to run the territory against me? But thank goodness the assassin put in a good word for you. He said you were stupid, you fell on your head, you didn't know what the hell you were doing. So let me know to all you others, if you don't want to be a dumbass like Santana, stick to work with me, because this is the house of action, and I built this damn business. Ain't that right, assassin?
Yeah.
He sure did, I'm good to say it. But when I went back, it was a little different story. God did take me back, but there was a price. I got to referee a whole bunch of times, which I liked actually. I didn't mind doing that. And he had a way to keep you not very high on the card then, so that was okay. That was what my experience was. Excuse me. Billy Jack did try, but it wasn't Portland wrestling. No. And that's the problem. And I gotta tell you another Elton Owen thing real quick that I know these guys will remember. He would always say, if you're riding, I was a heel, so if you're riding in the car with one of the baby faces, and you get in a big accident, God damn you, you crawl away! Here's the kicker. I said, okay, I think I can probably do that, you know. He goes, but if you're dead, well, that's all right. And so we had, you know, Elton was kind of hard to take sometimes. He kind of grinded on you with his stuff like that. So we got him back one time in Medford. We heard of a person, not using any names, we heard of a person that was willing to do this. We heard of a girl that went to see Elton one time. And, you know, one thing led to another, and Elton was very happy until about 3 weeks later when we saw him again in Medford. We said, hey Elton, we heard you hooked up with a thing like that. And he goes, oh yeah, but she gave me the herpes!
Okay, I gotta get back to this Billy Jack Haynes. He did open that promotion, and he brought in a lot of guys, and he lost everything trying to lead. The only thing that I found bad in that whole deal, because it was only Billy Jack was trying to be a businessman, But Don Owens gave Billy Jack the biggest break of his life. He would have never been Billy Jack Haynes if he was staying in Calgary working for Stu Hart. He came to Don Owens. Don Owens believed in him, used him in Portland for the Pacific Northwest. Billy Jack got over like $1 million. He got over so big that he actually, I know because he told me this to my face, he actually believed that he could put Don Owens out of business because he was that over. And he was very well over. And he paid his pay. When he had to come back to Don Owens, the first thing that happened, because me, the grabber, God bless Piper, first thing we did is we paid him back. He was the biggest baby face. He came back, we made him turn heel in Portland. And that's just the way it went. But, you know, Billy Jack nowadays is very bitter with the business, but he did accomplish a lot. I just didn't like the way he did that, you know? And, you know, he's everywhere he traveled. He got over in Florida, New York, wherever. But that part, I just didn't see. Don Owens, his father ran wrestling before him, and you're competing with a promotion that had been there, what, 80 years, whatever many years, you know. So that's the way I see that part.
Somebody we should talk about, we haven't talked about yet, Dutch Savage.
Dutch Savage, God bless you.
Dutch Savage. Did you know Dutch? Yeah. Remember Dutch? Why don't you talk about legend Dutch Savage?
When I went into Portland, from Alconco, I came in for Dutch, and, you know, I did work away and worked a lot of matches with Dutch. Hell of a worker, and we liked him, you know, he stayed in character, we did, but my thing with Dutch, I would talk to him out in Canada in BC, and Dutch would come up and we would tag team and all that, worked with all the gimmicks, good man, God rest his soul, and I can't say more than that, with Dutch, you get the great guy to me.
And he promoted Washington for Don for a number of years as well. Dutch, Greg?
Yeah, I got a story about this guy. Yeah, I never worked for him or anything. I debated back and forth whether I should tell this story or not. Ed was there, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. I wasn't going to tell you, but I'll just go ahead. Okay, I worked, of course, for Superstar Wrestling for 2 or 3 years for Dean Silverstone, and then Dean went out of business. And then I joined the Army, of course, to make amends. But I used to go to the, in between Superstar and then go back to work for Dick the Bruiser at WWA. Got an argument with Dutch one night and at Seattle's arena. And part of it was because I worked for Dean and I was sticking up for Dean. Anyway, long story short, so we had an argument, nothing really too serious. Well, about 2 years later, after I got out of the Army, I went up to work for Altomco. And when I were driving along after the show, it was Bill Lehman, Siegfried Steinke, that's who he was, and Ed. Steinke was driving, Ed was in the shotgun, I was in the back, you know, kind of catty-corner to Mr. Steinke. Well, driving on the road after the show, he looks back at me, Siegfried looks back, and he says, just real matter of fact, do you have heat with Portland? I said, yeah, Dutch and I had an argument one time, and he says, well, Dutch wanted me to break your leg. Then he says, well, I'm not, because I like you. So I guess it does pay off to be nice. But no, to justify everything, toward the end of his life, you know, he passed away, we actually became friends. I found him on the internet one day, on Facebook I think it was, and we started talking, and we were actually good friends. I could call him on the phone, he'd call me, and he'd become a born-again Christian. And but yeah, the last year of his life or so, we were friends. So I don't want to, you know, I don't want to sit here and malign him because he passed away. But yeah, we became friends after that. It was kind of a weird but true story. But that's my big story about Dutch. So.
That's for Dutch?
Yep. Dutch Savage was very good to me. God bless him. He did have his ways though. If he didn't like you, you were in trouble. But when I was assassin and became a babyface, Dutch Savage handed me the coal miner's glove like on TV, and because he was like the king of the coal miners glove match. That's it. And he passed it over to me, and then I became king of the coal miners glove match because I started winning every, you know. I didn't win the one against Kurt Hennig, God bless.
Vince got, in Portland, that was the gimmick match.
Yes.
When the coal miner's glove came out, it was on, it was serious.
And 99% of the time it was sold out.
Yeah.
And that's where when I had the first solo with Kurt Hennig was at his coal miners glove match, and Kurt beat me. And then I got that, but, Dutch was, took care of the challenge for Don. Sometimes it was questionable. Some people questioned, was the house the same as what he told Don it was? But then again, I'm not gonna throw rocks against Dutch. He was good to me, and, you know, I always say, what goes around comes around, and so if you were stealing money from somebody else, then this would happen. But I'm not saying that Dutch did that, just a lot of people would say that, and I never agreed with it.
He denied that to me. He denied vehemently that he did not steal. But when we were became friends.
Yeah, I don't believe it either, except the time we were in our town that held 2,100 people sold out, and, God bless, that's not what he turned in for a house.
Real quick, we still have some more stories I want to get into, but I do want to take a moment to mention the History of Professional Wrestling Pacific Northwest is for sale here. I haven't had a chance to read it. It seems like it's pretty good from what I can tell. Dean couldn't be here. I have read this book. This is excellent. Scott, do you still have copies for sale here?
I'm out. But
You're out.
They're online,
crowbarpress.com. I know Pig Farmer, Dean Silverstone. It's fantastic.
I'm in it. More stories of Greg Lake. Hey, 15 minutes of fame, 46 years, I gotta take it.
Yeah, he couldn't be here. This is what I want to mention right now. Len Denton's book, The Grappler, what is it? Memoirs of a Masked Madman, which I think is an excellent book, one of the best read or best written wrestling books that I've read. The reason I wanted to mention this now is because when Grappler came, from a presentation standpoint, Portland was not the most progressive territory. And with Len, and you can talk about this, Ronnie Piper kind of booking from behind the scenes, you added music and more soap opera aspects of wrestling. Talk about that shift.
That shift came through, like Piper, grabbed me and Lenny and other guys that tried it, and Buddy, God bless him, we all tried to transform into that. And Buddy did get a little bit of that done himself too, but Piper did start adding with Lenny, got more music added to vignettes or whatever you want to call the show, and
You know, get the music, you had the Southern Rockers, you had Art Bars, Beetlejuice, you had Scotty Raven, Scotty the Bobby.
That's right. So, you know, all the characters that were made there, it's unbelievable. And what a territory to work. Portland, like I said, you were set Monday, you could be in Longview, Tuesday, Lebanon, it didn't matter, Wednesday, Medford, Thursday, Salem, Yakima on Sundays, Eugene Friday, right back in Portland on Saturday, and it went on like that. It was a great territory, and everybody, I think, got paid pretty good.
What about when, like I think it was 89 or 90, the Crockett guys came in for a couple of shows?
Yes.
Talk about.
I'll tell you, when they came in, we drew such a great crowd at the Portland Coliseum or whatever. And then I remember they had an advanced ticket sale for Spokane and Giant Coliseum there or whatever. $55,000 advance ticket sale. So everybody, you always thought you're gonna have, if you got $30,000, you could determine you were gonna have a $90,000 house. So when I was at $55,000 advance, there's no way. and that, you know what? They only sold like $2,000 more worth of tickets.
Yeah. Were you on the anniversary show, the 60th one in 85?
No.
I'm not sure that, yeah.
I don't think so. I'm gonna turn it over to somebody else.
Yeah, talk about, so when wrestling was hot, there was the show that I went to, and I think probably a number of people did, right after WrestleMania in like May of '85, they did a 60th anniversary show and sold out the Portland Coliseum. Main event was Flair against Billy Jack for the NWA title. Rick Martel had the AWA title, he defended against Mike Miller, and
If you get hurt back there, crawl away! If you're dead, well, that's all right, we'll say the heels kill you.
and that's, Roddy Piper had so much respect for Don Owens that literally, like a month after WrestleMania, under contract to WWE, he came and worked that show against Buddy Rose. He'd just come off the main event at WrestleMania, the most hated man in wrestling, and he was the biggest babyface and got the biggest pop that night. Working, I mean, an amazing show as far as the array of talent, the variety of talent, and they kept doing some of those spectaculars. Talk about those.
Well, they bring in you mean with Crockett?
Yeah.
Yeah, they bring in a partial crew from Crockett, and what?
With the extravaganza was Vern's true.
Yeah, they had Road Warriors.
Some people from Burns too, but they like to come to the Portland wrestling because we seem to work harder. I think our crew really did work harder, and they liked that, and we kept up with them, and it was an extravaganza, and the Portland wrestling fans, they responded really well to that.
One more thing I forgot, both Road Warriors told me, out of respect for Don, sold out show at the Coliseum, they worked for Don for free because they had so much respect for him.
Wow.
That's what they both told me.
Didn't know that's probably true. Knowing Hawk and Animal, I would say that's probably true.
So why don't we wrap up here, and each of you kind of talk about what you think the legacy is of Don Owen and the Portland Wrestling Northwest Territory.
Oh, by the way, Ed Hawk, Road Warrior Hawk, in DC, Vancouver TV, Ed had his first match, or Hawk had his first match with Ed. So, as an in and out territory, I mean, we'll never see that again. I do want to say one quick thing. I was telling everybody I was going to rant and rave about doing jobs and all that. I mean, how we never got looked upon. Referees, back in the territory days, generally speaking, Don's there included, referees recognized Sandy Barr, they put over big time. Great guy, by the way. And, but nowadays, you watch WWE, you know, I mean, they're great, they're super, but they never mentioned the referees. I don't even know if they ever mentioned Kevin's name on there, Kevin Jeffries. But yeah, I mean, it's like the referees are just some third person walking around, but they're the third most important person in there besides the face and the heel, or in the tag match, whatever. So I just want to, you know, all these guys that never did anything, you know, never announced, they did things. We were basically known as carpenters back in the day. Now they're enhancement talent, and that's great. But, you know, it's like the old saying, well, you know, it's like that suit, the guy wears a suit, he says, if we don't look good, you don't look good, or something like that. Actually, yeah, you know, it used to be, if you don't look good, we don't look good. Well, as far as the enhancement talent goes, if we don't look good, you guys don't look good. The guys that, you know, on top, we enhanced the talent. 46 years repping and doing jizz obs and all that kind of stuff. Hey, you know, nobody ever gets the thanks anymore. It's always the top guys and hey, HCK and all that. That's great, super. But we're the guys that build them. We build them up. Understand all these guys. I got him because he's a WWE rep for, what, 3 years or so. Okay, anyway, I'm just glad to be part of it. Sorry.
Hey, Ron, we got any time?
You got all the time you want.
No, I want to.
All right, let's take some questions then.
Okay.
All right, real quick, ask a question about the territory. Putting yourself over is for TGI Fridays. What do you got?
It's about the TV. Were you guys syndicated like WCW was? Yeah, throughout the United States or
No, it's syndicated just in Portland and the certain area of.
Yeah, it went, you know, I lived right between Seattle and Portland, directly like 90 miles, and between. So I was able to get Seattle TV and Portland TV. And if I recall, initially, it was live at 8:30 and went till 10. And then Seattle had big time wrestling for an hour at 11. Was it the week before or was it later that hour? Okay, week before from the show. So that's how it worked for the television. But no, it was never a national. In the blue in the back.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey.
So, I definitely want to know, how big did Luther Lindsay change the territory by being the first black man to win a title?
Big time. Big time.
Great question.
Very good
We
question.
gotta talk about Shaq Thomas too.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna use some education that I got from Mike Rogers here, and he could fill you in better, but Luther Lindsay and Shaq Thomas were two black wrestlers that did change the face of wrestling, especially during the time when it was segregated in some parts of the country. And I don't think Portland and Seattle were segregated in that way, but just during that time, they made a great impact on the Portland wrestling and the Seattle wrestling area because their talent was so good and the people respected them so much.
I don't know a lot about Luther Lindsay, but Shaq Thomas is a legend in Portland and in Seattle. And later in his career, he became that troubleshooting referee, where a lot of times referees are kind of the patsy sometimes in matches. But when Shaq Thomas was refereeing, you knew that justice was going to be served, and he's one of probably the most beloved wrestlers of all time in Portland.
Harry Elliott.
Yeah.
Besides, Sweet Brown Sugar was there, Rocky Johnson. Brick House.
Mr. Ebony, Tom Jones.
Mr. Ebony, and all of them got over, but not as big as Shaq Thompson, but everybody got. It was, like I said, and I'm just wanted to say this part before I forget. I want to thank Rip Oliver, who can't be here. He's turned his life completely around. And Lynn Denton is not here. And there's some girls that always were at the matches and always wrote, very good friends of mine there here. I'm not going to put them on the spot. But I held hands with these girls going 55 miles an hour down Interstate 5 or whichever. And I'm lucky.
What about Soupy? Do you remember Soupy?
Soupy, no. And I'm lucky, besides the Portland wrestling part, you have a wife named Fantasy, named Paula, in wrestling is Fantasy, but got to travel all over the world with me, and a great mother-in-law that I have. But I'll get back to Portland wrestling. It was so good. Let me get some more questions.
Oh, she was there.
Young woman with a black tie.
You mentioned that for the most part, you had the same fans coming in every week or every night that you were running. Was that like a concern at the time? Were they concerned about expanding and reaching new people, or was that sustainable enough that they were like same host every week, the same money every week, and that's fine?
We had the same fans because the place was sold out so much, you couldn't fit, the fire marshal would cut you off in a certain area, and sometimes we were able to go to a bigger building, and the Rose Garden or other places like that, Coliseum, and then they would expand, that way. We'd have a lot of fans that just couldn't get in, so they'd stay home and watch it on TV, and that was our...
And Don Owens hated that. I got chewed out for being on the sellout. Don Owens said, I said, Don, it's a sellout. Why are you mad? He said, for Christ's sakes, those 800 or 600 people that got there, they ain't coming back no more to wrestling. You dumb son of a bitch.
All right.
You don't get paid.
Right? Real quick, this reminded me of the power of television here. I see the end of the story, but I'll tell it real quickly. Buddy Rose, Ronnie Piper, huge feud. As I mentioned, the TV for a while was live at 8:30. And then it moved back to 11 o'clock in its last years. Big feud, Roddy Piper's the babyface, and Buddy Rose stole his kilt and takes it up to the crow's nest, the interview area, and sets it on fire.
Oh, snap.
So the fans saw this on television thinking it was live, called the fire department. And the fire department shows up at 11 o'clock and the sports arena is closed. There was no fire. That was the power of Portland television. You guys were instant stars. Everybody watched Portland wrestling.
Yes.
Yeah, rating wise, it had to be unreal.
Yeah, it was as big as any territorial television show. Bob, you're back.
Tell us about Dynamite Kid when he came from Stampede to Portland. Any good stories?
Yeah, Dynamite was great. He was part of Oliver's clan, and I wanted, before I get to that, you had a very good point, because I put many people over for Ricky Steamboat or whatever. If it wasn't for the people that put other guys over, forget about that part. If you want to make it in the business, just put it everywhere and go. Back to Dynamite Kid. He came from Calgary and became part of Oliver's clan and got into a big feud with Kurt Hennig. I can remember us being in the little cage, me and Rip and Mike Miller, and Dynamite would suplex Kurt into that little cage, and because the crazy bumps they would take. And Dynamite wasn't the biggest person ever, but man, that guy could go. I mean, he was a wrestling machine, and I don't know if I'm answering your question right or not. I just know that Dynamite, because I knew him from Calgary too, played a big part. As a brother in this business.
Was it dangerous to have two notorious ribbers and Kurt Hennig and Dynamite Kid at the same time?
No, not only that. I've had people, you know, we came one time from Salem, we got back to the show, and everybody's suitcases was hanging like this. And I was like, wow. But the person that did it had to have a key, because that person also put their own bag up there. And then, no, I had to be Kurt. That was Kurt Hennig. Kurt Hennig. No. Kurt Hennig. If I did it, I learned it from Kurt Hennig. But the biggest deal is everybody was getting so many locks and stuff put in their bag. And Luke Brown, yeah.
Hold on, Ricky. Hold on there. Hold on. You guys see me when I'm walking around here, I'm limping?
Yeah.
That's because, pardon my language, these fuckers put so many locks on my shit. I'm walking like this. I couldn't even carry my bag home, there were so many locks.
You don't know the backstory to the, well, yeah, but the way, it was a business deal.
Oh, I see.
See, we went on a road trip and we ended up in Boise, Idaho, we were coming back. And the lock started from the first day of the week till the very end. And coming toward the end, there was like 20 locks on my bag. They had actually locked my tuxedo ring jacket to the bag. And Luke Brown was the ring crew referee. He had the bolt cutters. Now, he would charge you $5 a lock to cut it off of your bag. So as the week went on, Luke come over, hey, you need them to cut off? No, I got it, don't worry about it. Come the last day, he sees them all there, he sees guys, he's all excited, I'm gonna get this guy, I'm gonna go in. Now I got it, man. You know why I had it? Because the rumor mill, because you know, 3 forms of communication, telephone, telegraph, telewrestler, everything gets told. My partner had a little business deal.
Oh, God.
He would put the locks on. Luke would cut them and they'd split the profits. So yeah. My brother, yes. Yeah, oh, that's another whole other story. Brand new pair of tennis shoes. We're up there. Yeah, okay, we're up there in Spokane. There's snow on the ground. I go to the shower, I come back, my shoes are gone. Mind you, there's 3 or 4 inches of snow outside. I'm with Scott Goring, who had a Delta 98 car, where the floorboard had been rusted out because he bought it from Minnesota. All I had was shower shoes and I had to drive back. He had no heater in his car. So the cold air's coming. I got my rain jacket, I got the towel, I got everything around my feet thinking I'm going to get frostbite, I'm going to lose my toes, there's the end of the career. But needless to say, you had nothing to do with that one either. Still waiting for them shoes to come in the mail, and I figured sooner or later I'll see them. You know, they were the new Reeboks with the pumps. You know, that was the thing back then. And they were brand new. I said, "What are new shoes, Dad?" And he said, "Oh, that's great, that's great." They ain't seen them since, bro. But that's all right. It's all right.
The only reason we knew it was David Sierra that did it is because he wasn't in the territory at the time.
Well, I didn't do nothing.
I've been in 5 probably territories with Bobby Bass. Every territory I was in, something's missing, broken, stolen, people accusing you of people you don't even know. Bobby Bass was one of the biggest.
And Bobby, we were in Calgary together, right? Okay. Are you from Canada?
Oh, hell yeah.
We're driving down the road. We're driving down the road, guys, riding a horse backwards. I say, "Hey Lenny, look over there. The Canadians don't know how to ride the horse. They're riding it backwards." He pulled the car over. He wanted to kick my ass.
And that was my dad on the horse backwards. You know, Lenny over there, Lenny Montana, or what the hell we call him, I don't know. Hey, he blamed me for anything. You know, like, he don't save himself. You know.
That was one of his image in Florida.
Oh, yeah. He would put more ribs on more people, and he'd give me that dumb look. You know, Lenny, you don't sing.
Do you want me to tell the biggest rib here? Do you want me to tell them?
Yeah, sure, I'd like to hear it.
Okay, I will too. All right.
Oh, wait a minute, I'm not finished. You know, you guys talk about the rocks on the bay you can't walk. None of you had anybody shit in your boot, go ahead. You know, shit in the boot. And I'm going to tell you what happened there. Now, you talk about Elton, you know, with a little teeth finger. So, Monty May, I love the guy. Elton would give him shit about something, and he said, "Hey, Bass, did you say something to Elton?" I said, "No." So anyway, Elton had that ride, I think, and he sat it down. Monty went to the dip and Chris said, "No, he got and then a drink." And Elton drank and he said, "Ooh, that don't taste good." So he explained me, and that's how the shit got in the boot. Go ahead, Eddie.
This is how it was with Bobby Bass on the road.
I went to Japan for my first time in 1979. I was still green in the business, you know, really happy to get to Japan in my first year in the business.
You were great, Ed.
Now, Bobby Bass is on the same tour as I was. Also, so was Dynamite Kid. So one day we're doing something and we're having to take this long ferry ride, and I've got a camera and I'm taking pictures of all the places in Japan and all the guys that were on the tour. I asked Bass and Dynamite, I said, "Hey, would you mind posing for a picture so I can take it back?" They said, "Sure." So I got my camera and I'm getting it ready and look like this, you know, and I said, take the picture, and I didn't like it very much. I'd do the camera again, take the other picture just to make sure it's focused, everything I do. I get it home, probably about a month later. Back then you had to get film developed, okay? I get my film developed and I get my pictures back and I'm showing everybody, look, I was on tour in Japan, Andre the here's Alexis Smirnoff, and here's Haystack Calhoun. And then I look at another picture and go, oh, shit. Dynamite Kid's there like this. Bobby Bass has got a straight face on, but his little Bobby Bass is sticking out the bottom of my picture. My mom goes, hey, let's see the pictures from Japan. I go, well, Mom, I don't really want you to look. So, that's him on tour with people.
What do you mean, little Bobby Bass?
It's always good to end on a high note. Real quickly, Portland Television wouldn't have been anything without the announcers. I think Fidel wanted to talk about the two legendary announcers of last year's Portland Wrestling.
Yes, without Frank Bonema, Don Coss, and without those great commentators, Gordon Soliga, that they made Portland wrestling because they were out there telling what we were out there doing. Stan Stasiak, God bless.
Yep.
I had a pleasure to work with and a pleasure seeing him commentate. He'd love it. I'd go up for my interview and I'd say, he was selling cars. And I would say, you know about a used car salesman? He would say, keep selling that, Dave. I got people coming buying cars. No, but without those people and everybody together, it takes all of us to make a show. And Don Owens had the right remedy in Portland wrestling. And no matter what anybody said, he was just as good as any other promotion. Way up north, south, east, and the northwest, he was the man.
Jimmy, I just have to say something.
All right, we're talking about Don real quick as we wrap up.
I just want to say, what you were saying about Don and the town. When you went into Portland, no matter who you were, or where you come from, you get in the ring with somebody and you knew you were safe. You had such great workers in that territory. It was unbelievable. And you never had a doubt in your mind. Rod Workman, Dave, or Rick, hey, we did a thing the young kids don't understand. They called it in the match. We did. I worked at the finish. That's all you had to know. But you had guys in that territory from top to bottom, Dave. I say that without honesty, were fantastic. And you had a great talent he had in there. That's all I have to say.
All right, if you have a survey in front of you, please fill it out. Just like an Uber driver, 5 stars, please.